Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me again on the Alex Hayes podcast. I'm your host, Alex Hayes. Joining me today are my special guests, Savannah and Stefan. They are the co-owners of Date Creek's Farm out in Wickenburg, Arizona. And today they're here to share some wisdom. Their farm has been in operations from 1966, since the original owner founders bought the land. And they are here to talk to us about multi-generational farming. They're going to talk to us about what they have going on in their current business, but they're also here to share their story about how they successfully been able to transfer a business down to a third generation and now looking to transfer it to a fourth generation coming up. But we are just so happy and grateful that they are giving up their time because I know they always have something to do on the farm. So with that, thank you so much for being here, Savannah and Stefan.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
So go ahead and introduce yourself. We'll start with you, Savannah. Talk to us about who you are and what's the relationship with Stefan and how you've come to be a co-owner of Date Creek Ranch.
Yes, my name is Savannah Bartow, and I've been on the ranch for almost 11 years now. I married in, so my husband is Kimberly's son, and Kimberly is Phil's daughter. And so we are third generation, and we have been working in the business for 5 or 6 years now as owners or owning part of the business. The Day Creek Ranch has a cattle operation and a beef business and pastured pork. So there are some aspects of it that we have kind of split, and my husband and I are in charge of the beef business.
Awesome. Stefan, talk to us about who you are and you're part of this whole operation.
So my name is Stefan Wolf, and I also married into the family. My wife Kim is Philip's daughter, who bought the ranch in 1966. It's been a ranch since 1870, but our family has had it since 1966, so almost 60 years. I've lived here almost 30 years, and we've been married that long. Savannah's husband Ryan is my stepson. We have another daughter, Amberly. She also lives on the ranch, and she and her husband also work as our employees.
Awesome. So you've got a whole family operation, multi-generational, but also extended family operation where everybody's kind of pulling their resources collectively for the betterment of the family.
Yep, that's right. And they have two kids, and Savannah and Ryan have two little small children now. So hopefully, at one point they will also be interested in taking over the ranch.
I love it. And before we went live, Stefan, you were talking about how everybody is part of agriculture. Would you mind just resharing that thought? Because I think it's super powerful that people need to hear that.
Well, there's only 2% of the population in this country that is involved in agriculture in some way. That even includes, factory farms and trucking that's involved in that, and the selling of food items. And that's a very small percentage of the population. Wendell Berry said that eating is an agricultural act, and most people don't think about it like that at all, ever. They are very far removed from the land. They go to Safeway or some other grocery store, and then that's where they get their food from, and they have no idea where it came from and what went into growing it or raising it. And that is, to me, that's a sad story. It's these 2% of the people, we grow their food, which is the most basic and essential activity that we have in our society. And we farmers and ranchers enable all the other people, the lawyers and doctors and teachers and whatnot, to do those things that they do because they do not have to grow their own food. They used to have to all do that, before we were as specialized as we are as a society today. That's how that used to be. And so I think that's just a powerful thought, and people don't typically think about it like that.
So talk to us about the beginnings of Date Creek Farms, where let's go back to 1966. What was the original purchase for? What was the original crop? What was the whole purpose of the buying the ranch out there, and what did it look like back then?
Well, my father-in-law, Philip, by trade, he was a geological engineer. He used to work in the mine in the Globe, Miami area. And my wife's family, that's where they're from. They started a ranch in the 1870s there at what's now called Top of the World and between Superior and Globe. And that original ranch house still stands there next to the road. There's an old adobe house.
At that time, it was Pinal Ranch.
Yes, it was called Pinal Ranch. He was an engineer in the mine and he got to know Kim's mom there and they got married and Kim's grandfather talked him into buying a ranch over there. He said, "Oh, you should buy a ranch and you should do this." And he was fed up with working in the mine anyway. He didn't like that one little bit. And so they bought a ranch over there, and that was a very hard scrabble place. It was very hard to make a living there. Kim's grandfather, then he went out of ranching altogether. He went to work for the town of, I forget which town. He quit ranching. Though he had promised him that he would show him all the ropes. And so I was a little bit of a bust, and he was looking for a ranch to buy that was a little easier than the the ranch over there by Globe. And he found this place, and they started ranching here. They raised cattle, and the rangelands and the riparian area here were quite deteriorated from drought and overgrazing and other factors. And fairly early on, he figured out that he had to do things differently than it had been done in the past because it wasn't working all that well. And so early in the 80s, he came across what was called holistic management, then morphed into holistic resource management, HRM, and now I think they call HMI, Holistic Management International. A guy named Alan Savory founded that, and he had some new or rather old ideas about grazing and how that should be done. And he implemented a lot of things starting in the early 80s and how he grazed and the ecological principles that underlie the desert and brittle environments in general. And that was a paradigm shift for everybody here on the ranch, and we started doing things differently then.
That was part of that early grass-fed beef movement.
Well, it wasn't grass fed then in the 80s. They always sold a few beef here and there. A change from continuous grazing, what had been done for the last 100 years on the ranch and on every other ranch around the West. And it's led to lots of overgrazing, lots of overrest on the same pastures, and to a pretty bad deterioration of the rangelands.
Yeah, and I think that's where I kind of met Savannah the other day over at the Lookout when she was talking about just that very thing. Maybe, Savannah, what can you tell us about what is the current landscape of your surrounding country, and how does it affect how you guys go about farming?
Well, we're kind of in the middle of the Mojave and the Sonoran Desert. And so, two deserts, very arid. It's not Georgia. We don't get regular rainfall. And so, a lot of our practice includes a lot of our management is really on the ground. You have to be out there. You have to be with the cattle, seeing what they're grazing, seeing what's growing. And a huge part of our management is rest. So we keep an eye on how long we can keep cattle in. And some pastures are 3 days and some are a month long. And depending on where we are on the ranch, it's up to us to be an active participant in that grazing. And the key for us has been a lot of, not overgrazing. And for us, the holistic part of holistic management is the whole picture, the bigger picture. We're not just here raising fat cattle. We're here improving our land with cattle, and we are part of an ecosystem that has been in existence. And so we are working with wildlife as well. So we don't want to take every single bit of feed there is out there. So leaving a lot or leaving a good amount for other animals as well is important, but also having a good rest period in between so that, like on our pasture where we have irrigated pasture, about 10 acres, because we have consistent rain or rain water.
Turn it on.
We can turn it off, we can turn it on, we can increase it. Because our pasture is regulated, it's man-made, the increase of water makes the grass grow back. And so we can turn around and we can do the 10 acres over and over again during our growing season. Out in our bigger pastures, that's not how it works. So it's just keeping an eye on things. It's being active out there, boots on the ground. Our neighbors around here don't really do what we do, and so you can see a difference just over the fence line of mostly overgrazing. And long stretches, the animals are in there without really paying attention to what the grasses are doing.
I hear the sounds of the farm. It's all right.
Yeah. Sorry about this, you know.
We are talking about farming here.
Yeah. It's really good. Everybody has their part that especially through the years we figured out what we enjoy doing and what we're good at. Luckily for the most part, I think we've all do a lot of what we enjoy, sometimes not so much, but the job needs to get done. But there's
Well,
enough of us to spread it out.
we keep it with Karl Marx. That this is communism, principle of communism, to each to their own abilities, to maximize their performance to their own best abilities. Not that we're commies.
I think the collective good, right? Everybody's got their responsibilities, their jobs
Yes.
and
And
responsibilities.
that's if I just, it works in a small family. It works with us 10 people, but it would never work even in a small community.
Yeah,
You have to have more rules, and it doesn't. But among us, we can work like that.
absolutely.
In more ways than one, that being it, we are pretty unique in as far as ranches go, where we work really well together as family, employing family, working with family. We work really well. We also are something that I take pride in is we do get vacations and we do get trips. That's one of our and holistic management quality of life is also something that you take into consideration. We don't glorify, overworking ourselves. We still want to have enough to give back to the ranch, to give back to our customers, to enjoy being here. And so a huge thing is that we all work together to make sure we get those trips in. And we get a lot of stuff done because we all have the goal of, keeping the ranch in our lifetime in our family and healing the land, leaving it better than when we got it. Hopefully leaving it in a great condition where the boys even want to take over it. It's too often nothing is there for the next generation. It's been overworked, it's overproduced, whatever the reason, and nobody wants to take it.
No, and if it's, a lot of farms and ranches, all the kids ever see is that the parents work themselves to death and they never have fun and they work 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And why would they want to stay?
That's a great question.
I think the average age of the American farmer or rancher is 67.
Wow.
And that is very old it's not that far from my age, but it's pretty old as an average age. And there is no new generation coming. And their knowledge that these people have will be lost. And I think that is a bit of a tragedy. And if we don't make it attractive and live the example of that this can be a good living and that you can have fun and that it's a fulfilling life. If we don't live this example, none of the kids will stay. And they will just go work in town for whatever, do whatever. And I think that's a sad thing. We would like for this land to stay a ranch and open space while we own 646 acres. We ranch on 39,000. And we would like for that to stay a ranch and not houses. For it to stay a ranch and for it not to be developed, we need to have a viable business. We need to make a living here and a comfortable living, or we don't need to be rich, but we need to be not struggling all the time. Because if we are, why would our kids want to stay?
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Do me just
Nobody
a quick...
wants to be a burger flipper for minimum wage their whole life.
Yeah.
And even they get $16 an hour now.
Stefan, do me a favor. Move over just a little bit more into the... Yeah, there you go. You're like half, your face was half out. There you go. Perfect. No, I agree. I agree completely. I think more people need to be appreciative of of the information and the wisdom that the prior generation has to pass down. And I think there's a lot of insights there that we can all learn from. And I think you're spot on. I think a lot of generations or maybe in the millennial generation were looking at their small business parents and saying, you know what, I see the lifestyle that you live, and I there's got to be something better than that. Why do I want to be you? You know, like that's a I think that's a really powerful piece of wisdom there that I think people need to hear that. But talk to us real quick on, we know farm life is busy, but maybe for the audience that doesn't know so much about what it means to be on living on a farm and maintaining a farm, talk to us, walk us through like a typical day for you guys.
There's no such thing.
And for us, that's the exciting part is if you sometimes we joke about it where, it would be nice to just clock in, know your job and clock out, do your job. But here it's you have your plans and then you have what happens. And the number one is all the animals need to be fed. They need to be fed. They need to be rotated. The animals that are not here at headquarters are out on the range. They're at least half an hour, 45-minute quad ride to go get there to do the job that you need to do. And that's more Kimberly's area. Stefan is all
I
over.
fix things.
Yeah, my husband's currently up at the shop welding with our ranch hand. They have to fix the whole flooring of a trailer. So lots of that. We're building wildlife ramps for some new water troughs that we're installing around the ranch so that little toads and birds and stuff don't fall in and drown, for the bees as well. We have about 60 pigs that need their water checked, their feed checked. We have chickens, we have dogs, we have cattle on pasture, we have more cattle in a different pasture down here. It's making, food and water for everybody, and then the little things in between.
Yeah, little things in between. I just came back to fix a float valve in a trough, drained the house tank overnight. So the ranch is completely off the grid. So we have to make our own power. We have to pump our own water. We have to deal with our own trash. We're not connected to town in any way. And so, people always, they come and they say, oh, you're living the simple life. And we always laugh, you know, simple life. You just plug your washing machine in the wall and then everything works, I actually have to make the power first.
Oh
It's
my goodness.
quite as easy. It's not quite as simple.
That's that's amazing.
Food and groceries and fuel for the ranch, the parts for the ranch, all of that it's usually somebody's whole day. We're half an hour from Wickenburg and an hour and a half from Phoenix, 3 hours from Flagstaff. So anything that's in any part of Arizona is going to take us all day to go get. Even the ranch itself, it's big enough that it's an all day thing to go
Yeah.
to the end where the cattle are right now, check the pastures, check all the cattle, make sure nobody's sick, all the calves are good, water's flowing, the electric fence is up, if we're going to move again or not, and then checking all that fencing, making sure it's good to go to the next pasture.
We always have, range improvement projects. Right now, we're putting in a new piece of pipeline for water, so for cattle and wildlife water. Over the last 15 years, we probably put in about 35 miles of pipeline all over the ranch. There's always things that we do, and it never ends. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but there you have it. We like it because it's never the same. It's always different. Presents new challenges all the time. And being a rancher or farmer, you have to be everything. We have to be, an electrician, a carpenter, fence builder. Animal husbandry is very important, but it's also very important that know your business. Run a business. We have to do the books, and we have
to pay our
overhead. We
employees.
got to figure gross margin rates and things. Not all those things that you have different departments for in a big company. We do the same things. We don't just put seeds in the ground and watch them grow.
Yeah, you guys definitely don't have a simple life by any means.
No, not typically.
I want to go back to something that Savannah you said earlier, which was that your family works well together. And there's I've interviewed a bunch of people. I've talked to a whole bunch of business owners around the country, and I can tell you that there's nothing that brings a family closer together than business, and there's nothing that can drive it apart like a business. How have you guys been able to navigate not just having a business, but an entire lifestyle which is so codependent on each other and then have it go so well relationally? Like what do you think is your big secret or key to success working as a family in a business and in this broader lifestyle?
I would definitely say communication, what you struggle with, what you need help on, what project needs to be completed, what you can't do by yourself, what you need, all of that, what you need to get done. Every morning there's a meeting to break down what the day is supposed to look like. And we want everybody to participate in that. We want everybody to have a voice and give their 2 cents, even if, it's not necessarily your area. It is good to have outside views, and we work together to basically talk through everything.
Yeah, operationally, we long time ago we instituted our morning meeting. We almost every morning we have a ranch meeting. Everybody shows up and we have a coffee and we chat about the day and the week and things that are coming up. And it's one of the most important things to organize our lives. It works very well. Overall, I think the most important thing is that we trust each other to do the right thing. Otherwise this would never work. We really trust each other to do what needs to be done and the right thing. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody does what I want or what I think should be done, but it was, whatever whoever did that to their own best abilities and they had the best interest at heart. And I can trust that.
Mm.
And that typically works out quite well.
I love that. Good communication is essential for any kind of trust and any kind of relationship, regardless of where it's at, whether it's familiar, inside your family or in your profession. It's you got to have trust, and to have trust, you need good communication. I think that's excellent wisdom.
Well, we have fun together, you know? It's not just about work. It's not just about getting these things done and, working. We try and goof off and we try and have time to get closer in a way that can't always be done when you're out in the field or doing the job. And so I think having a bit of both, but I also think the only reason that we really work is because we all want it. We want to be here. We want to be doing this, and the rest of it is what it is. As long as we all have that desire, we all have that main focus, that intention of keeping things running, keep making sure the business is bringing in the money for us to do the other projects that we have. And I think that's by far what brings us together. I mean, myself, no agriculture in my life before this. My brother in law, who married into, no agriculture for him. And I mean, you chose this, you left Germany for this.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't. I'm a city kid, born and raised in a big city in Germany, and I came out and I love this. I fell in love with the desert and the West a long time ago when I was an exchange student in Maryland, and then when I was 17, and I came out west to visit, and I just fell in love with that, and I I kept coming back here until I get stuck. I got stuck.
I love it. I love it. You kind of sometimes you know what you want and you go after what it is you want. And I like that. I appreciate that insight as well.
I think that's very, very true what you said. Everybody here, I think nobody feels obligated to stay here and run the ranch because that's the family thing to do. I don't think
Mm.
that works at all for any business. A lot of times you have the kids and the parents expect their kids to take over the business, and they don't really want to, but they feel like they should.
Your heart's not in it.
No, it doesn't work. And so we all decided this is what we want to do. This affords us, the luxury of living together as a family. We're together all the time. Kim and I spend lots of time with our grandkids now. They're hanging out. I see them almost every day, even if I don't spend quality time with them. But a lot of times, we're busy and we're working, but they're all part of it already, even though what Enzo's 4.5 and Arlo is 2,
Gonna be.
gonna be 2 soon. And the other 2 kids, my daughter's kids, are 4 and 1,
4.
gonna be 4,
And
and that
1.
one, well, nearest makes no difference. We have 4 little grandkids, and I see them all the time.
Yeah.
And I see my kids all the time. And this is a luxury that most families don't have. They work all week and you don't get to see them. Maybe they'll make a trip on the weekends, or their kids move away into a different city or across the country, and now they're 2,000 miles away, and you see each other twice a week, or twice a year, or something.
Well,
We decided really didn't want that. If we can avoid it at any cost, we would like to stay together as a family.
but we have, and everybody has encouraged. Ryan took off for a few years as a kid.
Yeah.
And they traveled a lot. Amberly left the ranch for a while, but once that decision was made for her, everybody came back, and there was something to come back to. There was a spot for them. There was a place for them. If not, we figured out how to make it work because they showed that they wanted it. That, I think, is really key for us, is we find ways to make it work.
Yeah. Ryan, when he was
16.
not even 16, when he was still 15, and he left and he went to Illinois to live with his uncle, who had a big horse place there, a horse barn, I should say. It's not really a farm. And he's a big name in dressage riding and horses, and he lived with him for almost 2 years and trained horses. But then he did come back, and we encouraged him to go travel the world, and he did. He spent 3 months here, 4 months there, and he was gone a lot, but we made sure that there was a place for him here if he did want to come back, and he did want to come back.
I think that's an awesome story.
I
want to talk a little bit about the handoff with, particularly, let's go back to you and Phil and Kimberly, right? Who started that conversation about secession? And then how was that?
There was no conversation.
No,
it was a typical thing. Kim has 2 brothers, and Philip made no plans whatsoever, none at all. It was terrible. And then he had Alzheimer's, and with Lewy body disease, which is Alzheimer's on steroids. It was very fast, and he deteriorated very fast. And Kim had already come back to the ranch in 97. She was divorced. She got a divorce from her previous husband, and she came back to live on the ranch, and she took over the orchard. Philip had an orchard here, that was pick your own apples and peaches, and that also had been a tradition. Then it had 20 years of tradition, and there's still a lot of random people I talk to in Phoenix, and I say Date Creek Ranch, and they say, "Oh, you guys are the ones with the apples," because their parents took them out here to apple picking when they were kids. And it's anyway. That transition didn't work out at all. We had a big fight with his last wife, which is not Kim's mom, and then later with her brothers, who had no interest in the ranch whatsoever. And it was Kim and I that wanted to keep the ranch and stay in ranching, and the brothers had no interest in that. But when Philip passed away, the ranch went into a trust and couldn't be sold for so many years. And Kim and I ran the ranch, and we always kept spots open for the kids if they wanted to come back and do something here. But we did require them to do something here.
If they're here.
If they want to, you can't just come here and loaf about and expect to be an owner in the ranch. That didn't work for us. Kim and I felt like this should stay a ranch, and it should go to somebody that is interested in the ranch, not
Somebody really
when
wants land.
just like when Philip passed, the ranch went to the three siblings, and only one was interested in the ranch, and the other two were not. And this buying out of the siblings is very hard. It's because the valuation of the ranch and the real estate has nothing to do with production value.
Mm.
So, what the ranch as a business can produce is very far removed from the value of the real estate. It's all about developmental rights, and that is worth a lot of money. And you could never, or not in 200 years or more, hope to amortize that with what the ranch makes. So that's jumping ahead again. That's why we are pursuing this conservation easement to get out from this debt. And
But also, all of this brought to our attention the importance of making sure this land is kept open and kept
yes,
available for ranching. We're ranch land. We're not really farming land. And so when the trust dissolved and we had to make the decision, the brothers wanted to sell and we wanted to stay. We all had to come together and, really digest that we could be paying this off for the next 30 years. Is this worth it? And it was very long. I mean, it was always yes, but you had to consider every other option. And we
we
did
had many
decide,
long discussions.
yes, many. And the result was that we did decide to keep it. We took on that loan, bought them out. And right now, to help try and work with that, it's the conservation will help ease a lot of that payment. But the whole thing reminded us that we need to do what we can to keep the land from being sold for development. And that's what the conservation easement is doing for us.
I think that's a powerful story. I know it comes with a lot of heartache there, and I can feel it in the story here. Looking back, well, instead of looking back in your story, reflecting on some of the conversations I've had with other business owners, one of the key things that the common theme that I see comes up a lot is this idea of being fair but not equal when it comes to passing down businesses or wealth in any means, in any real substantial matter. You could be fair to everybody involved, but doesn't mean you have to be equal. And I hear that pain in your story about how when somebody is not intentional about making sure that the business or the land or the value or the wealth is passed from one generation to the next, and considering all those variables, that there's real consequences, and not just after you go, it's, well, I guess that everybody else is just going to figure it out. Like
No, and
that's a common
exactly.
story.
We wanted to avoid the same pain that we had to go through. We want to avoid that. And so early on, after Philip passed, Kim and I decided, so if this ever is ours or if it goes to us, this is not going in equal parts to our kids. It goes to whoever is interested in the ranch, and then they can decide what to do. And we wanted to set it up so that it will stay a ranch and in production agriculture as long as possible, and that none of the siblings can make the other one pay, have to buy them out. If they don't want to, then they don't have to. In our case, it was Ryan, he was interested. And while Amberly has an interest, she has no right to make him sell the ranch. If he does sell the ranch at some point in the distant future, hopefully, she has a right to some of the proceeds. She's still there, but she can't make him do anything. She doesn't have a right to any of the business decisions in any way. Well, that's going to be when Kim and I are gone, that'll be Ryan and Savannah's job. We have it set up so that none of us now, we are co-owners. We have formed an LLC and all that, and so we own it. None of the members of this LLC can make the other one buy them out. If they want to retire their shares, that's fine. You can leave. You don't have to be responsible, but you can't demand a buyout. And was very important to us, because we see it all the time. Families, the parents die or pass it on in some way, and then there's a whole bunch of siblings, and I don't know if you know all these stories. There's big ranches still, and then they have all the heirs over generations, and now they have 150 people sitting on the board that decide what to do in the ranch, and that doesn't work. For us, it wouldn't work, because it's not just we have 2 kids, but now they have spouses, so there's 4. Now they have kids, now there's 6 already, and God forbid when they have spouses. Pretty soon there's 20. That doesn't work very well if the 19 can make the one guy that wants to keep it in agriculture sell it.
I think that's awesome that you guys, I mean, you as the owners get to craft the vision and still set the vision for the tone for what it is that what you want and your vision for the company and for the land and for the business. Like you're doing your best to set it down in writing as a roadmap. How did you, what other things other than buyouts were things that you considered and put into writing in your operating agreement to make sure that everybody knew who was doing what? Like, what were some of the other key pieces of details that needed to be hashed out or hammered out amongst the family to make sure everybody knew what's the playing field going forward?
After Philip passed and Kim and I had taken over the ranch, and we have a cow calf operation, so we have cows and bulls and they raise calves, and we started keeping all the calves and we raise them to uh, butcher weight, and we harvest the animals, and we have a direct marketing business. We developed that. And when Ryan came back when he was 18, he started working on the ranch, and then he met Savannah, and they all had interest, and they wanted to stay here, and they worked for us for quite a while. And then it got to where we all thought it would be if Ryan and Savannah gained some ownership and not just be employees. They needed to have some ownership. And I think that's another thing that in a lot of succession plans, it's, well, you got to work for us because someday this will be yours. And this is a very vague promise and a very vague future. And that doesn't provide a whole lot of incentive to be involved. We decided after, when this is probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, to split the direct marketing business, so the retail business, off from the actual cattle business, the cow calf operation where we raise cows, which Kim and I run that, and Ryan and Savannah run the direct marketing business. And they sell the beef, the retail business. We also sell lamb, and we split the business up, and they run that and we run this, and there's a lot of overlap where we all work in each other's businesses, but we work on our business and they work on their business. So you have this thing about Whitby and Whitby working in the business. Those are they used to be the $10 jobs, and the working on the business are the $100 an hour jobs. As farmers and ranchers, of course, we have to do both. But the Whitby jobs are much more important than working in the business. The actual fixing of things and the feeding of putting hay out for whatever. Those are $10 an hour jobs. You can hire a cowboy any day of the week, but we also have to work on the business. We have to make business plans and develop where we're going from here, and we have to run the business. And so they do theirs, and we do ours, even though it gets all mixed up. Everybody works on everybody else's business, and we all work in each other's businesses. We do have a main focus, and we take the profit home from that business, and that works pretty well.
It works pretty well. So you had to go through your business, and you had to divvy up responsibilities. And what you guys came to was a splitting up of the different segments of your farm, from the meat side.
Yes, basically we had to do departments. That's what they would call them in some corporations, and they have their department, and we have our department. However, our department would not work without their department. They market all the beef that we can raise and more, and they market all the stuff that we raise. And without it, they wouldn't have the story to tell and the things to sell, And so it's very interdependent. And again, without a lot of trust and a lot of communication, this would not work.
So talk to me about some of the steps that you have taken, because it definitely sounds like you have been more intentional with succession planning baked into your business model now.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about What are some of those things and the process that you are going through to raise up Ryan and Savannah here? That your timing is perfect again for joining us. What are some of the things that they are going through right now to make sure that they are prepared to take over the entirety of the business? What are some of those things that you're how are you going about this process of raising them up as leaders, the next gen?
Well, good question. I mean, I don't really have an answer other than,
Experience.
yes, kids learn by example. That's all. And Savannah came to it later, but Ryan's been doing that his whole life. He's been living this. And when he was a little kid, he did 4-H. So he raised pigs for 4-H, which involves, I don't know if you guys are familiar with 4-H, but it's a rural thing from the extension service, the university service. They're responsible for buying the feed and raising the animal, buying the animal, raising it. This involves bookkeeping and figuring out what can we afford, and we have to buy another pig drinker, and that's got to be somewhere in our budget here and things like that. He did that, and he's been watching us his whole life. He was homeschooled for most of his life, and that
It was a very hands-on homeschooling.
yeah, we did, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and very few hours every day. And after that, it was ranch things. And that involves anything from building stuff where you need geometry and to bookkeeping where you need all kinds of other math and animal husbandry and, teaching horses. It's just a very broad thing. And the responsibilities of a business owner, he drank that up with, from early childhood because he's always been there. Kim and I, Todd would talk about it, we'd have discussions, and I'm sure he drank it up by osmosis.
Well,
So,
and I would say a lot of it is, letting go of, you guys originally had the cow calf operation and the beef business. And then we took over the beef business, which is marketing, customer service, organizing, buying the cattle from you, feeding the cattle, running the pasture with the cattle, having our abattoir butcher come out, finding a butcher, processing fees, packaging, delivery schedules. And so we solely do that now. And I think we're waiting for just a little bit more time in the day to go a step further into the cow calf because Kim's job is that's a very dedicated job. And so we're
well, it's like this. As we get older, we can't do certain things anymore or not as much of them anymore. And we have to step back and they will step in. And for us, it's difficult to let go of the responsibilities and having the reins, so to speak. And at the same time, we realize and we know that we need to let certain things go and that Ryan and Savannah make the decisions on that. It's not that easy, we've done it all our lives or for a very long time. We were responsible for all that, and they may or may not have different ideas on how things need to be done. And so but we realize that we do need to let that go to some degree. Of course, Kim and I don't really ever want to or will retire per se, there's no future that we can envision where we move to Florida, we will always be working on the ranch and in the ranch, and because that is our passion and we like it.
I would say a big where some people go wrong in it is like you had said earlier about at some point you will have this. So show me that you want it or you can do this. But you're not given that opportunity to actually see if you can do this or you want to do this or you want to learn how to do this until that person's gone or whoever is handing it down is gone and they can't teach you, you can't learn from them, you can't, they can't still be your mentor on that. And so I think we never imagine you just being out of the picture completely, but the responsibility of it may be less on your
Yeah,
hands.
it
And
will
so,
shift.
yeah, and it's
Already shifted. and it will shift more over time. That's just the way that goes. And they trust that we will let that go, and we trust that they will take those reins. And it's what you said, it's very important. I think that this we see that a lot. So when the kids work in the on the ranch in this vague promise that they will get it at some point, but they don't even know if they do want it because they've never had the chance to actually run that.
Yeah.
They've always just been cowboys
Employee,
or
yeah.
ranch hands or farm hands, and they've always just ran the tractor, and they've never were involved in the business decisions. Do I actually want to buy a new tractor? Or all these things have long and large consequences, and that's if you never had that responsibility in any way, how do you know that you even like it?
I think that's a beautiful picture because what you're describing is a gradual letting go of the reins. And it's not, and I've had multiple conversations with successful business owners that have passed down from one generation to the next. And there's this another common pattern is that it's not a one-time event. Like you're saying, it's not well, I'm done. So now it's yours. You figure it out. There's always a, there's always a gradual letting go, but an overlap period where they get to make mistakes, right? The next generation comes up, they get to get their feet wet, they get to make the mistakes, but not terrible mistakes, but just enough so they can understand what it is that they're doing. But at least they get experience and exposure. And like you're saying, it's like, do they like this? Can they really wrap their hands around this? And I think that's very intentional. And I think that it's a beautiful thing when you see one generation being intentional about letting go and intentional about passing on not just operations, but in essence, you're passing on the wisdom and experience and giving that to the next generation to take on. And I think that's a beautiful picture of family. I think that
Because I mean, I don't need we don't need a cowboy here. I can hire those off the street. Well, that's saying a little much, but I can hire somebody to round up cattle. I can hire somebody to do all those little jobs, but we want our kids to have ownership, not just in the literal or legal sense. They have ownership in the success of the ranch as a whole, their business and our business. That's very intentional. You're right. It's very intentional. We always wanted that. If possible, always the chance that none of our kids actually want that.
yeah.
And we were even going so far as to say, if none of our kids want this ranch, we will leave it to somebody that wants it, that will keep it as a ranch and keep it in agriculture, keep that legacy going. And the kids they're sorry, but you're not.
Since I do have the next generation here with Savannah on with you, I want to ask you specifically, how has this handoff been from your vantage point, and how is it going? And what's been the biggest maybe surprises of taking on, and morphing into an owner? What has been some of those biggest surprises? But then what's also been something that has gone really well through this transitional phase?
Well, all in all, I don't have any complaints. It's
Good
been
answer.
it's been very good. It was a very gradual thing until we finally made like the official decisions for co-ownership or switching the beef over and but we were basically doing those jobs before the official change. And so we were able to rely on them a lot for help and guidance in that. And then when it became our own, we talked to them about things, but it is our decision. And I would say, I guess it was always shocking, initial shock of, every time I talk to somebody about being in the beef industry and selling beef, they're like, oh, yeah, it's good money. That's good money. Well, it is a lot of
Mhm.
money, but it takes a lot of money to do the business. Hay, processing fees, buying the animals, vet bills, all of this are big numbers. And so that was kind of interesting to see the correlation there, but not really. I mean, the only big thing that really we already had the trust discussion and, we made our decision to take out that loan and pay it off. So that's probably the biggest thing weighing on us right now. It kind of keeps us from hiring other employees and getting other kind of help and expanding in other ways, because right now what we have is making the money to pay off that loan. And so we are kind of in this stance of let's try and get through the next couple years to get that conservation easement, get a chunk of it off, and that will give us a lot of freedom. Because the big thing is if we want to make more money, we need to get bigger, and none of us really want to get much bigger. That takes us away from the other things that we want to do. And plus, we're a small ranch. We're in the bigger picture, we're a small ranch and we're a small family. We have a close relationship with our butcher. It's a very close circle, small circle to get the beef to our customers. We have direct contact with our customers. If we get bigger, then we do deliveries, or we have other people do deliveries for us. And we don't want that. We still want to be able to shake the hand of our clients instead of never meeting them. And so I think that's kind of a decision Ryan and I have made. And yeah, more money is always great, but now that we know how that actually happens, we like our size and we like the community that we've built. We like the freedom at home on the ranch that we have. So it is interesting though, especially being in the marketing side of things and customer service, what our clients appreciate and why they choose us. And it's basically the same thing. We're small, we are personal. We get to know you. We know you for years. We know you by name. And none of that we really want to change. And besides that, our ranch can really only handle so much. And so we're happy to stay within that and not go beyond our reach. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it's just always been how it is, things. I used to just do chickens with Ryan. That was our income. I got paid a bit for being a ranch hand, and Ryan got his payment for welding and all the stuff that I didn't know how to do. And then we had our chickens. That was a choice that we made. We talked to them. Can we do this here with you guys to make our own money? And we did that for many years. And then we didn't want to do it anymore. And we started doing the beef.
Oh, but that's another thing that we implemented, or if encouraged a lot to. So we have this land and we have this business already. What other businesses can we integrate into that and layer on top of that to increase our income so that everybody can have a decent living here? And that was one of the things that Ryan and his friend of Ryan's that used to live here, they started the chicken business. They ran chickens on the irrigated pasture. They were pasture chickens, and they sold those chickens and they made some money off of that. And that complemented what we were already doing. In the irrigated pasture, the chickens would go behind the cattle and clean up their manure and things like that. And that was great. And we encouraged that too. Is all that for our other kid, Amberly, and her husband Josiah. He's working for us now, and they run actually the old ranch house as an Airbnb. That's one of their things that they do. That's part of their income. But if he or they can come up with some other enterprise that they want to do here on the ranch, they're more than welcome to. Think there's quite a few opportunities there. People could do that. They could raise chickens too, or turkeys for that matter, for Thanksgiving or Christmas turkeys. There's quite a demand.
Well, and this is what we mean by keeping the ranch in production, in agriculture. It doesn't have to be beef. That's the most bang for your buck, but
well, right now it is.
Yeah, exactly. Right now. And as things change, we just want, the land to be benefited. And animals do that. Grazing animals do that. So,
truth be told, in this arid landscape, this is historically, it's parts of the ranch are 7-inch yearly rainfall, and other parts of the ranch are 11 or 12-inch rainfall areas. And that's the historic average. We don't ever have average years, and the last 25 years have been drought years on average. And so the only sustainable agriculture that can be done on this land is animals, ungulates, hoofed animals. There's no other thing that we could do here that would be sustainable. we can't crop anything here. We'd have to pump all this groundwater out of the ground, and that's not a sustainable thing. That we use more than we replenish, it'll run out. And so, in this arid landscape, I think that animal agriculture is pastured animals is the only thing that we can sustainably do. And so, like I said, if we can stack other things on top of that, now that's great. And we always look for those things.
Well, I very much appreciate all the wisdom here. We've in the last couple minutes that we have together, let's talk about what you guys have as talk about your business model, talk about what you're excited about, and then how people can find you.
What are we excited about? Well, we're excited about that we have in our business, the things that we do. We, on a relatively small ranch for this area, feed our three families have a good income. We make a good living, and that is quite unusual. Most ranchers of this size, the rancher has a job in town that supports his cow habit, as they say. I find that those statements are sad because it shouldn't be like that, but it is because most places do commodity beef. They just have cows, and it's a commodity. The only differentiating factor is price, and so it doesn't really matter how you raise your cattle. They're all the same anyway. And for us, that is different. A long time ago, we decided we can't make a living that way, and we don't want a job in town, and we want our kids to come here and also be able to earn a living. So we started direct marketing. We sell everything that we can raise here. We sell it direct to customers. So, which isn't easy. We have Savannah is the marketing director, vice president of marketing.
Oh,
So, that enables us to be in business.
Yeah.
And one sad to say, but one has to say the technology and the internet enables us to do that. Without that, when Kim and I started direct marketing, we put ads in the paper in the Arizona Republic.
And you mailed out postcards.
And we mailed out postcards from people that came to pick up apples. And then we did cold calls. We had to call people, which is difficult to do because we don't have phone service. And 20 years ago, we had to drive 4 miles from the ranch to the phone tree, which was the only place on the ranch that had cell phone reception, which was also very expensive cell phone service back then. And so the internet really has enabled us to do this whole direct marketing thing. And so we're very grateful for that. And I'm excited that we can do that. I'm excited that on this relatively small area, we can feed 3 families.
Well, we take care of 3 families.
Well, yeah,
I mean that, and we feed
hundreds of people with beef, but
every year.
We provide an income for our 3 families.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited with what this looking for the conservation has brought us. We've sort of been forced to be out in the public eye a little bit more, which is really good. Whether or not we get grumpy about it, it's only short-lived because we love being on the ranch, but we love talking to people and sharing in that passion of conservation along with what we do. So it's been really enjoyable stepping out of our comfort zone, stepping off the ranch to go do that. We're meeting lots of good people, but yeah, all of it's good. We're happy to get some of these projects done, of course, but it's really fulfilling to be a family providing food for families. And we've dabbled in dealing with restaurants and selling at shops, and none of it really satisfied us the way it does to meet a family, hear how they enjoy it, hear what they had for Christmas and what their kids love and all of that. So staying direct to consumer is definitely where we want to be and where we want to stay. And I don't see us really changing that at any point. We're still, when you place the order, it's me you talk to. When you pick up, it's me and Ryan you talk to, sometimes Stefan if one of us needs some help. And that's how we like it, So I'm glad we have the opportunity to make choices like that and stick to what we want instead of being forced to do things.
And people can find us on the internet at datecreekranch.com.
datecreekranch.com. I love it.
Order online, you place your deposit, and then we'll be in touch with the next availability.
Perfect. And we will make sure that we have links to all your socials, and your website will be in the description below this video. And yeah, we encourage you, if you're looking for a great place to source grass-fed beef, like totally in a sustainable, grown in a sustainable fashion, please reach out to Day Creek Ranch. They've got a lot of different options for where you can procure your meats for either a season or for the whole year, right?
Mhm. Yep, we do pastured pork once a year and grass-fed beef all year.
Beautiful. All right. And with that, thank you so much, Stefan and Savannah, for sharing your wisdom on secession and how you guys have been able to do it. It's life, and it's a picture of life. It's never, life is never goes according to plan, and a lot of times it's messy as hell. But at the end of the day, we all live through it, and we learn from it. And I appreciate very much you guys passing on your wisdom to me and to the audience. We really appreciate it. So thanks so much for being here.
Yes, our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
All right.